Okay, hello, everyone. My name is William S. Peters, and I'm really excited about today because I have the opportunity to actually do an interview of one of my partners, my peers, my mentors. A very inspirational, person in my life, and that's none other than Miss Mrs. Valentine McKay-Ridell. Do I always say that right? Riddle or is it Riddell?
It's Riddell.
Riddell. Oh, okay. Yeah, stand corrected. Not that an old guy like me would remember that, but
That's
I'll
all
try.
right. Nobody does.
Okay. So, Valentine, how are you today?
I'm good. I am
Good,
looking
good, good.
forward to chatting with you,
Yeah, yeah.
as
I mean,
always.
we talk a lot, but now we get to actually record the conversation, and give people the opportunity to know more about who you are, what you do, what your interests and loves are, and your stance on a variety of things. Because I'm looking forward to getting your stance on humanity and the things we can and cannot fix, and the posture we should take. And I'm probably giving away the interview
Oh
all at
dear.
once now. You know, so let's start off with something simple. I know you have a very, very storied past with, in the education community, and you continue to be involved in, educating and counseling and things of that nature. So let's tell us a little bit about who is Valentine? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I'm a Navy brat.
Okay.
I was born in Orlando, Florida. My father was stationed on the base nearby.
Okay.
Um, and I grew up in Canada for the first part of my life up until age 10, and then finished in Texas
Yeah, okay.
with my
That's
dad.
quite a that's quite a swing. Is that all because of the Navy?
Oh, it was because they divorced 3 years after they got married. It just wasn't meant to work out. And
Okay.
daddy was a Texan and mother was from Canada. So
Oh, really? Really? Okay. Okay. So, I mean, being Canadian, we know you hear a lot about. Okay, so you speak French as well?
I do, but not because of that. I
Oh,
speak a
okay.
little tiny bit because I like French.
Okay. It's funny. I took 2 years of French in high school, and all I can remember is "Comment allez-vous" and "Je t'aime," and the,
Well, the one I
yeah,
learned in high school was "Vous voulez coucher avec moi,"
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
will only be understood by the other people who speak French. So there you go.
Okay. So you're transplanted from Canada to Texas
Mhm.
at about what age?
10.
10.
Mhm.
Okay. Was that a culture shock for you? Was there a big
Well,
difference?
we had been going back and forth for years
Oh, okay.
since the full
Okay.
split. Only we were weirdly spending summers in Texas where it's shockingly hot, and
Right.
winters in Canada where you build snow forts.
Right. Right. What part of Texas?
Austin,
Austin. And what part of Canada?
Hamilton, Ontario, which is
Okay.
maybe 55 miles from Buffalo, New York.
Okay. Well, we heard about the winters in Buffalo. My God. Yes.
About the same in Hamilton.
Yeah, same in Hamilton. Okay. Okay. Now going forward, okay, you were raised in Texas after a while, and then what happened?
Well, then I had an argument with my beloved father and ran away to Mexico,
Oh, to Mexico.
old Mexico,
How old were you then?
19.
19.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. And what happened in Mexico?
Well, mother was living in Mexico, so we had some adventures for a while. And
Oh,
then
okay.
my high school boyfriend followed me down and we decided to get married. So we did.
Okay. Okay. Got married in Tijuana?
No, it was in Cozumel, the island of Cozumel.
Oh, okay. I was there. They had I went on a cruise one time and they stopped in Cozumel. You
Did
know,
they? It
yeah,
was
I don't
really
remember
beautiful
much.
then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I
don't remember.
understand it's different now.
Yeah. Well, this is going back like maybe 20 some years ago. So, at least maybe 30 years ago, but
Mhm.
whatever. So now I had mentioned earlier um, that you gravitated towards the education community. Tell
Mhm.
us about that transition. Tell us. what happened then? You got married,
Well, we
you
got
saw.
married. We had two children. After 13 years, I divorced my husband.
Okay.
We had by then moved to San Francisco, to California.
Okay.
And so I did a number of things. I worked in a restaurant. I had a catering business. I went back to art school. Um,
Okay.
I was making sort of protest pieces, and I was told in art school that although at the Art Institute you have a lot of freedom, San Francisco Art Institute, or you,
Hmm.
I was told that my work was more political and psychological, and I should probably study psychology.
Okay.
So I withdrew from the master's program and went to another school in the East Bay
Okay.
and studied actually psychology slash education for a short while,
Okay.
very short.
Okay.
And then I had met Lewis, my husband, in
Okay.
school. And by then we had married. And so then we started moving around. We did all kinds of interesting things.
Okay. I know, like, going back through the years that I've known you,
Mm.
well, we met up with you, I guess it was 2019.
Mhm.
You're in New Mexico, but I remember you being on the East Coast someplace. I remember you being on the West Coast someplace. And I'm like, I was saying to myself, she moves around a lot. Yeah.
I think that I counted Lou and I together have lived in no, we moved 22 times over the 47, 48 years we've been married.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and we
Wow.
each owned a home and we had each been married and divorced. And I had by then two grown children who were
Okay.
off at school and things like that. And
Hmm.
we decided we didn't want to buy a house. We wanted the freedom of being able to go where we wanted to. So we got to live in
Okay.
Ashland, Oregon. Um, let me see, in a little further up the coast in Northern California, Nevada City for a while. Where else? New Mexico several times, back and forth.
Okay.
Mexico, California, back and forth.
Mhm.
We moved out here originally to Santa Fe in 1990. And
Okay.
and then we went back for maybe 8 months to Nevada City, and then we came back out here, lived in Galisteo. And I, at that time, we had started the nonprofit, Orenda Healing International.
Okay.
And by that time, I was working with kids at risk in the detention center and also with AIDS patients. And
Okay.
basically, I was just sharing what I had learned.
Okay.
And I learned it was the healing process I learned when I was getting over a rather serious illness in
Okay.
California.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, that'll be fine. That'll work. And it involved art and art making and things of that nature. So we were
Mhm.
working with the kids making art. And
Mhm.
it was a very, very badly run detention center. As a matter of fact, it was run by Wackenhut, which at some point I understand was, dealing with some of the really horrible places. And what is that place down there, Bill? My geography's terrible, where all of the prisoners are sent.
Mhm.
Guantanamo
I
or
couldn't.
something like that. I can't think of.
Guantanamo Bay
Yeah, I think that's it.
in Cuba. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
those were the kind of guys out of the prison, and they were treating the children horribly, you know.
Mm.
And so I went into the director and said something. He just looked at me and he said, I'm not going to listen to you. You're just the art lady. And that made me mad. So I decided to go back to school and finish my schooling and get some degrees. And that was
Mhm.
when we went back to the Bay Area. And I enrolled at the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology and got a master's and eventually a PhD.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's the background on the education.
Okay. Now, a couple of times you mentioned art, 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 art. Is art basically, say, a first love for you?
Mhm.
How do you view yourself and art, and how do the two of you interface?
Well, it changed over the years. When I was little, Dad would bring me, books with pictures of various things and I would draw them.
Okay.
Um, and then I studied art in little private places as I was growing up.
Hmm.
And I've just always loved it.
Okay.
It turned out I
And
was more of a sculptor than a painter.
okay. Okay. Did you do a lot of working with clay per se
I
or
did very little work with clay. I did things with driftwood, found
okay.
objects, metal, weaving, sort of worked all those things in.
Okay. Okay. Do you still work in those various mediums or it's behind you?
It's not exactly behind me. I use the things I learned, the principle.
Hmm.
For example, weaving is a
Okay.
principle that I use. It's part of my life in terms of how I work with everything, with people,
Oh,
um,
okay.
with teaching, I mean, I feel like everything is interwoven. You
Okay. You have a unique perspective, and I want to kind of expound on that a bit. When you talk about weaving and everything's interwoven, and you and I talk, about everything being connected.
Mhm.
If you could you kind of explain that theorem a little bit for more in depth for our listener, um, which encompasses your perspective, about being interwoven and connected?
Okay. In a nutshell, first of all, to give you the context, it is about quantum energy. Energy, everything's energy. Okay,
Hmm.
everything. Some energy moves faster than other energy. But we are energy essentially. And if
Okay.
you ever want an experiment, take a strand of your own hair and hold it up between your face and the sunlight, and you'll see it's made of concentric circles, which if
Hmm.
you're looking are moving.
Okay.
It's a very curious thing to look at. Anyway, that said, if it is true that everything is energy, then all energy affects all other energy. So if I'm having a good day and we talk, then you will probably feel that and you'll have a good day
Mm-hmm.
too, right?
Yeah.
If I'm in a
Yeah.
horrible mood, it's going to brush off on you.
Right. Right. Right.
And
It's funny that you say that. Oh, okay, yes, maybe so. However, I think that, how would I say this? That some people's energy is stable,
Mhm,
is generally the same way for most of the time. Like I know, for example, every time you and I interact, there's a certain demeanor, there's a certain energy that you have that is warm, and I look forward to engaging in, and look forward to see what's coming out of it. In other words, it's a very comfortable energy as well.
mhm.
Um, then, of course, I think like all of us, there are some people you just don't want to see or be around.
Sadly true.
Yeah. Um, you know. Um, so,
But let me go a little bit more deeply into the energy
okay,
thing, because you're talking about energy in the sense that we all think of it, you know. I'm
okay,
talking about energy on a different level.
okay.
Just briefly, one of the processes I used, or maybe the key process when I was healing back up there on the coast, was it was based on Huna, which is the Hawaiian science of healing and
Mm-hmm.
magic for that matter. And the essential teaching is that we're made of three parts. Okay. There is
Okay.
a little part, that's our body part. It's called the unihipili. There is what we call the ego, and that's uhani. And then there is the higher part, which is aumakua. These are the Hawaiian terms for that. Unihipili and aumakua are connected. Okay. The little child in us is close to spirit.
Mm.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would think so. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
inner child enterprises, you got to,
Absolutely.
there you go.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the ego, Uhani, is constantly getting in the way and trying to tell us how to do everything.
Mm.
Now, which is
True.
okay. Ego has its place and it's great. But in order to bypass it, you have to activate the child, the little child. And so that is what I did. I used my childlike beliefs in things to contact spirit and learned that whatever I put out into the universe was going to come back exactly the
Okay.
same way I put it out there. Um, and I had scoliosis at the time. I still have it, but
Okay.
not as badly. And so I was walking on the beach and I saw this sort of twisty piece of driftwood. And I thought,
Hmm.
I think I could use that in a sculpture. So I took it home and I made this driftwoody thing, a weaving, and it
Hmm.
looked like my spine, kind of, like that.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I was reading the Hawaiian information and studies, and I was seeing a chiropractor. When I read this thing about everything you put out there will come back to you, I thought, well, I better put out something more positive because that's not going to work. So then I made another weaving with a perfectly straight spine. And
Okay.
6 weeks later, I was at the chiropractor's and he said, "Hmm, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing what you tell me to, lying flat, etc." And he said, "No, your spine's straightening out." And I said, "Nah." He said, "Yeah, it is. It is definitely straightening out." And I said, "Well, I can't think of anything I've done except a couple of sculptures." And he,
Hmm.
well, I'm not an artist. I'm a
Hmm.
scientist, but I think you should do more sculptures.
Hmm.
So I did. And that is how I got into art for healing. And
Okay.
that's what I mean when I'm talking about energy.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me
Ye-
let this kitty out the door. We won't have any.
Okay.
Here, out you go. Which? Sorry. There.
Okay. I'm not going to say it's ominous, but like when you look at the wide variety of older cultures, whether it's their Asian influence or African influence or indigenous influence, in from Australia or New Zealand or the Americas, and you go back, you see this basic philosophy um, of you are what you project, and that we have the power to control through our projections what we are. You know, um, when you talk about, like, I know you do a lot of healing work.
Mhm.
You don't really get into it too much, but every once in a while you'll drop, oh, I have an appointment. I was working with this person, counseling with this person. Tell us a little bit, even though you gave us a little insight about your healing philosophy, but tell us a little bit about the practical work you do with healing, and how that interfaces with your philosophy about healing.
Well, when you say practical, what exactly are you referring to?
Well, in other words, I call you up, I say, Valentine, I need to be healed.
Yeah,
I don't
but I
know.
mean, that's very vague. You would have to tell me what was wrong.
Um, I'm
Just
having,
hypothetically.
okay, I'm having issues adjusting and accepting what is in my life. You
Ah,
know,
okay. So then we will launch
feel
into
I
counseling.
feel conflicted and all the time, you know, and I just feel like I need to talk it out with somebody, or someone to give me some guidance.
Okay. So I call it kitchen table counseling, to be perfectly frank. It's
Okay.
it's just you talk and I listen. And
Okay.
based on what I have learned in my own experience and maybe some divine intervention there's generally a whole bunch of that. Then I try to help you reframe perhaps what you're
Okay.
experiencing in a way that gives you some leeway, some outs, some possibilities. Because
Okay.
I believe that even though we may have had difficulties in our lives, and I
Hmm.
think each of us has in various degrees, um, those things, surviving those things has made us who we are. It's made us strong.
Okay.
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 And it depends on what it is. And I've heard many, many, rebuttals like, yeah, well, what about children who are being abused, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
Nobody chooses that.
Hmm.
I mean, things happen. They happen all the time. But we can choose when we get old enough to choose how we deal with it, how we take it, what we make out of it.
Okay.
So that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay.
And there's no
I'm a believer.
experience. There's a lot
Yeah.
of hand holding.
Okay. I'm a believer that we're all magnets. Like, I know I have a tendency of attracting a particular dynamic of people,
Mhm.
or attracted into my life, or I'm attracted to their lives. Tell us about your attractions. What type of people gravitate towards you, and what type of people do you gravitate towards?
Well, I gravitate towards people like you, you know.
Okay.
So
Thank
that's
you.
part of the answer. The folks that sort of come into my life, I don't know. I mean, we may start out as friends, um, or we may start out as just acquaintances, or we may start out in a more professional capacity.
Hmm.
But I wind up counseling on some level, regardless.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe I should just keep my mouth shut and let people do what they do. We all have free will.
All
But
right.
there's just something about it. I guess I've always sort of been like that. When I
Okay.
was little and my sister would get, you know, threatened on the playground, I would attempt to beat up the person doing the threatening. And I spent a lot of time in the principal's office as a result.
Okay. So let me ask this: Who counsels Valentine? Where do you
Spirits.
go for, you're, untying the knots? Where do you go?
Well, I talk to other therapists sometimes,
Yeah.
people that
Okay.
I know, my colleagues, but I think
Hmm.
an awful lot of it just comes from spirit. I really do.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
after a
I.
while, you look at a situation, and you think, this really sucks. And I'm feeling really angry about it, and so on and so on.
Mhm.
And then,
Okay.
you have a cup of tea or whatever it is, and you
Okay.
relax a little bit, and you think, on the other hand, is there something I did to provoke this?
Hmm.
Or you think, well, what can I expect? I mean, this is just how this person is.
Okay.
It's not realistic for me to expect them to be otherwise.
Right. Right. I know over the years of you and I speaking that you have, I don't know whether to say heavy, moderate, but you are somewhat influenced by the Native American culture, you
Mhm.
know. Tell us a little bit about that journey. How did that start, and its meaning to you in your spiritual life, your spiritual walk?
Well, it started weirdly because I'm on a summer visit as a teenager with my great aunts in Canada.
Mhm.
And I had an argument, teenagers do, with Aunt Loretta.
Okay.
And I didn't want to do something and she wanted me to, or the reverse. I forget what it was exactly. But anyway, I said something like, well, Dad would let me. And then she
Okay.
lost her temper and she said, well, then go on back to your father. He's a red Indian anyway. And I thought, ooh, this is so cool. So when I got home, I said, Dad, Aunt Loretta says you're an Indian. And this veil came down over his face, like somebody had just put a mask on him. And he said, don't you ever mention that again, ever. And I thought, oh boy, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Now I'm curious, what was that about?
Well, I think I do believe that what my aunt said was probably true because her brother, when my parents were going to get married, did have him investigated apparently,
Okay.
or looked into his background. And so
Okay.
then I tried to figure out, well, who would it be? You know, his mother's name was Buena Day, and was trying to trace the Day family, and I traced it back to um, North Carolina.
Okay.
There is a family there. I believe one of the more well-known members is Franklin Day, who was a furniture maker, and a
Okay.
good one, apparently. And he was native.
Okay.
And Dad had this gift, I guess you want to, he was a lawyer, but he had this incredible gift of putting together the most gorgeous pieces of wood, like,
Oh,
various different kinds of wood to make tabletops that were just mosaics, just
wow.
quite beautiful. And I often wondered where in the world he'd gotten that. And so these little bits and pieces, you know. So I believe there is that influence. I have native friends who, because I don't have any proof, would just sort of raise their eyebrows and go, yeah, sure. You and
Mhm.
but that's okay. you know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just, the feelings that I have inside and the things I remember that he taught me, um, were not the sorts of things that what we call here Anglos do.
Okay.
They just don't,
Okay.
you know, they don't
Okay.
sneak through the forest quietly. They-
Okay. I, I remember our initial encounter was kind of built and based around your book. Um, I don't know if you, well, of course you remember.
yeah, the
Um,
river goddess and other stories.
yeah, the River Goddess. And that was sort of like um, a sketch, fictional sketch about native spirits and the spirit of the river and things of that nature. Tell us, was that your first book? Let me ask that.
That was the first book that I published. Yes.
Okay. Can you tell people, because one thing we're talking about interviewing you, we've been talking about, parapsychology and this and that and what have you. And we talked briefly about the arts. But let's talk about your writing, because that's where you and I first encountered each other.
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to read your book, River Goddess, and we're waiting on book number two.
Well, we've got that. Remember, we published it.
What
Star
book number?
Friends.
Oh, okay, right. Okay.
That's book two. I'm working on book
Okay.
three.
Okay. Okay. So, but that's how we encountered each other. I think it was through Blessing Way,
Mhm.
that
It
we,
was.
yeah, that we were introduced to each other and, your book. But tell us about that book and about your literary journey, so to speak.
Well,
And then,
writing
and,
is something I started when I was a teenager, and I would just
and
write.
I
All,
want you to hold back because I want to get into the magazines separately.
okay.
Okay, but let's just talk about, your literary journey. You started writing when?
I was a teenager.
Okay,
And it was just sort of a train of thought, a journal, you know,
okay,
and little bits of it were poetry, but most of it was just journaling. And I did
okay,
that for years and years and years. And every now and then I would send something, when I got older. And usually, like everybody else, got dozens of, rejection slips.
don't remember them well.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. um, and then I don't know. I mean, the book happened. We were living in Tasuki at the time. Tasuki's up the road from Santa Fe.
okay,
And the book happened because I had been going to the Arroyo and having like a little ceremony. And I really
okay,
did find a little twisted branch. Um,
okay.
and I can, go get the book. It's over on the table and show you the cover if you want. But
Mhm.
anyway, I found it and I thought, oh, it looks like a dancing woman. And so I made a
Okay,
little teeny altar for it and I put this little thing on it. And every morning I would go out and have kind of like a little ritual and
okay,
maybe take a piece of toast or something and sit there and I'd eat a bite and I'd give some of it to the little, it's kind of a pagan thing to do, but I'm a born again.
okay.
So um anyway, um and I one day told a friend about it and she said, I'll bet you can't write about that. And I said, I bet I can.
Hmm.
Oh, I sat down and I had a typewriter at that point.
Okay,
And I thought, no, what shall I write about? And then all of a sudden this started happening. It was like taking dictation.
okay,
It was very weird.
okay,
And I wrote the whole thing, I think, maybe in a couple of weeks. And then I
okay,
thought, okay, that's that. I'm done with that one. But no, about a month or two later, all of the characters literally came back and said, you're not done. We want
okay.
one now. So we wrote what became book two.
Yeah, I know. I read the book and it was very enchanting. And I like the type of books that grab you and take you away in your imagination, transplant you into the scenery and the imagery of the book. And and that's where I fell in love with you, was through that book, and then consequently talking with you, um, the like spiritness, the like mindedness, and what have you. And I'm very, very, very thankful for that opportunity
Me
that the
too.
universe has provided us, you know. Okay. So, okay, so we have, the River Goddess, Star Friends,
Mhm.
and what's next, you said?
Well, in the next one, in Star Friends, the key character, the young girl named Alyssa, is older, right?
Okay.
And in the third one, which the working title is Strange Trips, she's an
Okay.
adult and she has just graduated and she's teaching. And this one involves all kinds of things: time travel, multiple romances, lots of trips back and forth between the present and the future. A lot of it is set in Berkeley, because that's where I was. But the
Okay.
curious thing is, books like these, and I advise people too who want to write books, but books like these for me happen because of some outside impetus.
Okay.
And I told you how the River Goddess happened.
Right.
And Strange Trips happened because I had a dream. And
Okay.
when I told Lewis about the dream, he said, I think you have another book. And I thought, maybe I do.
Okay.
So now they're all doing their thing and they're mad at me because I haven't been writing for a while. And they're all like, are you just going to leave us floating around out here or what?
Okay. Is there perhaps some type of loose correlation between your literary expressions and your own life?
Oh, yeah. I think so. It's not 100% autobiographical, but
Okay.
there are bits and pieces of actual
Okay.
experiences in
Yeah,
it.
I get that feeling, because both books had some type of mystical quality
Mm.
about them, where, like I said, it transports you into, the scenery, the imagery, and the space and time, which was different from my own particular reality, and that's the part I enjoy. It's kind of romantic for me, to indulge in any type of mysticism. I find that very romantic.
Well, the genre, hold on, I'm going to let this cat out too. Come on, out, go play. Oof. Um, sorry, I have five of them.
Ah,
That genre is called magic realism.
okay,
Okay.
okay,
So in other words, it is real, but there's a magical quality to it. And I feel
okay.
that life is like that. Nature
Very
is
much so.
a
Yeah,
beautiful example of
very
magic.
much so. Very much so. So now, just kind of, I'm going to jump around here before we get back to the journal that you're producing. But now, lately, we've been working on you actually encouraging and producing other, you know, thriving authors' works. You know, you know. Uh, how do you find it? Do you find that fulfilling? You know,
In many ways, yes.
do you find it a necessary work or a payback obligation or something of that nature?
I don't know if you'd call it payback. I think what
Okay.
it is when I first tried to publish The River Goddess myself,
Okay. Hmm.
it was very daunting, very challenging. There are many hoops to jump through,
Yeah.
all of which you know and have been
Yeah.
kind enough to share with me. Um,
Hmm.
and I didn't know them. And I thought, well, I mean, maybe this can be made easier for people.
Hmm.
So, because a lot of people want to write, not
Yeah.
everybody can, but many people want to, and they should,
Hmm.
and they should write. And if they aren't fabulous writers, then okay, no worries. You can get a good editor, someone who will help you.
Yeah. Well,
And that's what
I
I
think
wanted to
it's
do was help them.
yeah. Yeah. And that in and of itself is a service because I see a lot of people. I don't necessarily know them, but I see a lot of people. Thank God, in one sense, it's a blessing and a curse, this whole self publishing genre.
I know.
Whereas you can open a book and you don't know what kind of horror story you're going to encounter because the book was not edited or edited by the wrong type of person that really was not proficient with language or, the rules of grammar and what have you. Um, and then there's the other thing of making it look somewhat professional,
Mhm.
so that it makes a good representation of the author.
Mhm.
And then on the other hand, you see really quite a few really, really good books coming out the cottage industry of self-publishing.
Mhm.
And usually they're the ones that are guided by people like yourself or myself and various other people that are holding these uh, neophytes, these new authors holding their hands and walking them through the process. I personally, I find that very, very rewarding, you
Mhm.
know, you know, and I think I'm more blessed than they are, but
I feel that way too. I get to know so much about people and their
yeah,
lives, and just
yeah.
it's fascinating. And some people's lives, some people's experiences are so amazing.
Mm,
You kind of wonder how they ever made it through it,
yeah,
but they
yeah.
did. And when they do, I remember one individual I had been counseling who had some pretty horrendous experiences as a young person. And one of the exercises that I suggest for people in counseling is make art about it. Either, some drawing, some painting, some writing. If you're a singer, sing. If you're a dancer, dance, whatever. But get it out of your head so that you're not doing this, hamster on the wheel thing about the same problems and the same issues all the time. So out of that process for one person, there came a really interesting book, you know. And I told this individual, I said, if you write this, if you write it, in such a way that it can be worked with, then I will publish it for you.
Okay.
And so I did. And in fact, you helped me.
Mm. It was an honor. It was an honor.
And for me
Now,
to do it too.
yeah. Now going back to the writing, and if you would, you being a service linchpin into making um, available, the expressions of many writers and poets, or what have you. You have this thing called the Four Winds
For Winds
uh,
Journal.
Journal, right? Tell us, when did that start, and tell us, why did it start?
We started in 2016.
Okay,
And the why is very clear. It is because it was Trump's first, ascent to the office of president.
okay,
Um, and there were a lot of us who were very distressed about the whole thing. Um, and as part of the nonprofit, I thought, well, we're going to have to figure out a way through this. And if I remember, the first issue's theme and the first title was Facing North. And I chose that because I had a friend, he's gone now, but I had a friend who used to say when difficulties came along, you just have to pull up your collar and face north. And so I thought, okay, so we will do that. So we
okay,
did. We got a lot of wonderful, articles and artwork and various other things for that first issue of the journal. And we were only doing this online.
okay,
And so we did this, I think 2 or 3 times a year until 2018, at which point we decided it would be fun to actually print one and see what it looks like.
okay,
There is a local printer here, Image Ratio, and Jason Poole, who is the person, who owns that, was happy to do one for us, and we really liked it. And so we decided, okay, well, let's just keep going. Let's print them. We'll do it
okay.
online and print them.
Now you say we and us. Who's the we and us?
Well, we is me and my advisors of of
Okay,
a group of which you are one, remember?
okay, okay, okay. So going forward, how would you classify the offering? Would you still classify as something as pseudo political,
I
or
wouldn't call it
more?
pseudo political. I think it is in its own way political. Um,
Okay,
I try to keep it low key, I guess,
okay,
relatively upbeat, not because I'm afraid to say what I think needs to be said. I say that on Substack and, you know, Blue Sky,
hmm,
places like that.
hmm,
Um, but because I want to reach as many people as possible.
okay,
Okay. And It's not about fear, it's about communication. It is,
Okay.
I guess, here is my theory about communication. There are a lot of folks that you are not going to agree with, right?
True.
And who will not agree with you. And
True.
most people have similar goals. I'd say the majority of people in this country have similar goals. We all want, work that's meaningful. We want a roof over our heads. We want our families to be safe.
Hmm.
Want food on the table. We
Yeah.
want peace and quiet.
Hmm.
We just want to live our lives. But we have different ways of figuring out how to get that. And so if I want to communicate with somebody, then I've got to, and I do this with the counseling too, I have to get in there. I have to step into who they are and feel it, which is, I mean, I'm an empath, so that's not as hard to do. Sometimes I wish it weren't happening.
Yeah.
But
We tend to get in our own way, don't we?
oh, wow, yes. But it helps in this respect. So I can have a conversation with someone that I really disagree with,
Hmm.
and just do what I do in counseling, just listen.
Right. Right.
And when
Right.
I hear, something that is, I don't know, a shared emotion, then I can sort of hone in on that. I think it's really important in writing. And I guess I have to say Rainier Maria Rilke, the poet, the German poet, is the one in Letters to a Young Poet that inspired me. I believe the message was whatever you write, you are responsible for what happens as a result of it. Okay. And I thought, okay. So I kind of carry that in the back of my mind.
Okay.
And I keep
So,
thinking, what's the goal here? What is the goal? What's the best
so,
thing that can happen?
okay. So getting back to the journal, now comes out what, roughly about 4 times a year?
Yeah, when we're lucky, yes. It
Yeah.
was supposed
Okay.
to be.
3, 4 times a year.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to purchase a copy, how would they go about that? Where could they find it?
Well, it is available online
Okay.
through our website,
And your website is,
Orenda Healing International.
okay, arendahealinginternational.com, right?
.org.
.org. Okay, see, glad we said that. .org. Okay. Now, there's, I know in the various volumes, there's many writers. Is it open for other people to contribute?
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
okay. And how would they go about submitting, you know?
Every I guess season, I put out a
Mhm.
letter of invitation to
Okay.
submit. I'm just getting ready to release one for the winter issue of the journal,
Okay.
which is, by the way, going to be about resilience
Okay. Okay.
as
So
as a
when
form of
you,
passive resistance.
okay. So when you send me the letter, I'm free to share it, with my
Yes, yes.
my sort. Okay.
In fact,
Okay.
you're encouraged to share it. And I
Okay.
also advertise it on our website and I advertise it on social media, and I just start with something like, it's time,
Okay.
this is the theme. Please send your articles, your interviews, your artwork. We encourage, photos of original art,
Okay. So
really
it's
good
available
photos.
in so it's available in print. Is it also available as a download?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Good. That's good news. Good to
very
know.
much. Very
Good to
much.
know.
If people, I mean, some folks are just happy with the downloads.
Right.
No.
Right.
And the downloads are free. Um, some people like to turn pages, and I've learned that especially a certain, let's say, generation of people prefer that. I
Yeah.
happen to be
Yeah.
a member of that generation, so I dig.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and for them, the journal is actually it's very reasonable given what it is. It's about $10,
Yeah.
issue.
Wow.
And if
Well, I
anybody
get
wants
mine's
back
free.
copies, and if anybody wants back copies, it's less, it's like 8 or something.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Okay.
always print on demand because Jason is right down the road. So
Okay. And that's arendahealinginternational.org.
yes.
Okay. Okay. So
And the press, Bill, is called, because it's technically the press
Hmm.
that does this publishing, is called Winds of Change Press.
Winds of Change Press. Okay. Is that a separate website, or is that incorporated
It's,
or into healing?
I have a separate website, but it's really incorporated.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. I know that's the moniker we publish the books under, Winds of Change Press.
it is.
Right.
Technically, the press is a branch of the nonprofit, as
Yeah.
is counseling for that matter. So
Okay.
they're all under Arenda Healing International.
Now, I know that you had mentioned very briefly that you do a lot of writing, like on Substack and what have you. Tell us about your passion for writing, because I know a lot of it is, I don't want to call it protests, but maybe conscious awareness of what's going on.
Yeah, it's
You
more
like,
like that.
yeah, you like to bring conscious. Tell us about that particular passion, because I know you have a passion for it. Because I get the emails.
I know, I know. Um, I don't know what to say. I mean, I've always been aware of what's right and what's wrong. Okay.
Okay.
I think I was politicized when I was very young. I was born during World War II. And
Okay.
when I was living in Canada, I forget how old I was. I must have been 5 or 6, perhaps, if that.
Hmm.
And on the coffee table, there was, I guess back then they had Time Life books and things like
Okay.
that. They
Hmm.
must have, because that's the kind of book it was. It was a coffee table book. It was open
Yeah.
on the table.
Yeah.
I walked through the living room and glanced at it
Yeah.
because I love books, any books. And
Well, I think before Time Life, they had Time magazine, they had Life magazine, and there was Look. I remember Look.
well, it could have been any of them, but anyway,
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
was open.
Yeah.
And what I saw when I looked at it was a pile of bodies,
Mm.
not people laid out neatly, a literal pile of dead people. And I understood, and I don't know how I understood. I don't know whether I asked somebody, probably not. But I understood that this had to do with the war.
Okay.
And later, that it had to do with the concentration camps. And I think that was the point at which everything kicked in. And it was like,
Hmm.
no, there are ways to live in the world. There are ways to treat each other, to treat animals, to treat the planet. And this is not right. And so a part of me can't help calling it when I see it.
Right. Right. So, when you evaluate, your experience, your existentialism, and who you are, your projection, of what you are and what you desire to become, if you are still becoming, well, we all are
I hope
becoming,
so.
but but when you overlay that on humanity, and saying, okay, this is what my soul, my heart, my spirit, my consciousness is telling me. Um, this is my desire for humanity, and this is the route that I'm taking. Tell us a little bit about your perspectives on humanity, where we are, where you think we are going, and where, yeah, the hell
Here's a
okay.
bumper sticker that says, where are we going and why am I in this handbasket?
Question, okay. But yeah, where we are, because to some people it looks like we're in a great place, and to some people it looks like we're, hey, I don't understand those people either, but to some people it looks like, my God, you know um
A
and
handbasket.
yeah, and where we're going. But how does that interface with your spirit, and your hopes for what we love, humanity?
Okay. Remember the part about energy?
Yeah.
All right. Now let's switch it and use the word spirit.
Okay.
Okay. So what I believe, what I experience is we are actually spirits.
Okay.
And we are walking around in these bodies like we drive around in our cars.
Exactly.
Got to take care of them or the thing will collapse. Eventually, they do collapse. New Mexico
Hmm.
is full of what we call yard dogs, old cars that won't go anywhere anymore. They
Right.
just sit in the
Okay.
yard, and critters move in. Um, so if indeed we are spirits, and then we're part of what I call the Great Spirit, all right. So eventually we're going to rejoin that Great Spirit. Right now,
Okay.
I think of this as spirit sparks,
Okay.
sparks of spirit. Um, and I think some of us may have had more experience,
Hmm.
in living, shall we say, in this way. Maybe
Hmm.
this planet, maybe other planets. I really do believe there are many other planets
Hmm.
that are inhabited. Um, and those spirits, I mean, they've been collectively called, particularly in the New Age, group, young spirits, young souls, and older souls. And I think that older souls can have a look, and sort of determine who is and who isn't experienced. I think, to be quite frank, I think our government right now is being run by a bunch of young souls.
Okay.
That's the kindest thing I can say. I could say a whole bunch of other things, but I'm not going to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um, that said, where we are going, I think, is a collective. In a way, it's collective, and in a way, it's individual. In a way, there is a we, and in a way, there is not a we because everything is one.
Okay.
Is that making any sense?
A lot of sense, but I have a question.
All right.
You're very, very kind in saying and distinguishing it old souls versus young souls. And perhaps I look at it from a different perspective, and I'm used the typical Christian perspective of demonic souls and light souls.
I
Okay.
understand. I do.
Um, because I find it very, very difficult not to categorize some of these souls I see floating around as being demonic,
Some
you
of
know?
them appear to be. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And um, when I think about demonic souls, I think they're the old souls, and almost like biblically that, we're vying for power of the heavens, and just could not, fathom themselves not having power. So they rebelled, you know,
Mhm.
and we're part of the, if you would, the casualties of the rebellion, you know?
That's definitely a way to look at it. But we are survivors. And I think
Yeah.
it's very, very important that we remember that regardless, you know, rebellions notwithstanding, wars and everything else, those who survive
Yeah.
are stronger. It's like when a
Right.
bone is broken, it's
Hmm.
stronger in that place where it broke, theoretically, because the bone has got to, again, weave itself
Hmm.
back
Okay.
together.
Okay.
Um, so yes, there are those who appear to be demonic, and if I'm going to use the Christian analogy, I would say those who have literally sold their souls
Right.
to the
Right.
devil, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for that, we need to remember that the devil, Satan, was once Lucifer
Right.
and once one of God's, well-beloved angels, theoretically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who just got too full of himself.
Right. And metaphor or not, it seems very apropos,
Mhm.
to our reality,
Sadly, yes.
but and the funny thing is, here's the odd thing that I always found interesting, especially when it comes to the story of quote unquote the Christed one. This story is redundant. It has been a part of just about every civilization that recorded itself that there was this sainted one that, anyway, we're getting off the topic, but yeah, I find this particular type, and we have to continue this conversation, you and I privately, because I find this particular type of, consciousness and indulgence like very, very interesting. It's part of my life as to what I believe in. Yeah.
Me too. But before we move out of this spot, let me say
Okay.
this. People are constantly talking about the second coming. okay,
Okay.
of Christ. That
Yeah.
is who they mean. My personal feeling is if Christ actually physically appeared, they'd probably string him up again.
Oh, absolutely.
But what I really think it is happening, the individual who became Christ, Jesus or Isu, whatever name you want to give that individual,
Hmm.
there was an energy that filled that being, okay?
Hmm.
And we could call that energy Christ consciousness.
Exactly.
And therefore, I think the second coming, such as it is, I think we're beginning to see it. And
Right.
I am seeing it in people like you, you know,
Right.
and others who have this feeling, this strong feeling, this belief that love is much more important, more powerful, you know,
Hmm.
fear,
Yeah.
and that it
Yeah.
will eventually overcome fear. And fear is what's at the bottom of hatred,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
And I'm with you. I believe it's a consciousness. It has nothing to do with a body,
Mm-mm.
at all. It's a consciousness,
Mhm.
um, like an awakening, which is why they hate that word woke. It's an awakening. And I think as we awaken, that particular consciousness permeates all aspects of who we are, what we are, and what we perceive ourselves to be. You know, um, you know, there's a thing going back to Christianity real quick, and it says very bad. I'm paraphrase that. The war that we're fighting is the principalities and dominions.
Mhm.
You know, um, you know, So, and that says it all to me, so it's war of consciousness as to where I place my consciousness, how I allow my consciousness to indulge in what it dwells on,
Mhm.
um, and does it have an escape route,
Mhm.
from the things that seek to imprison my consciousness.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I've often thought, just and particularly lately with all of the AI and the wanting to go to Mars, which frankly I believe we already messed up. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
going back to Mars. Um, all this stuff that is happening, the technology, the Bitcoin, this, that, and the other. I swear, I think science fiction is predictive, right?
Mm.
I think an awful lot of what we've seen in science fiction is actually happening.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
has happened.
Both has
Yeah.
happened and
Has
is happening.
happened. Yeah.
Honestly, I think we're reliving Star Wars right here and now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I read a lot of stories about and videos and studies about archaeology and they talk about the marvels of the things that ancient civilizations were able to accomplish that
Mhm.
we still can't figure out how it's done. And whatever, and of course, they didn't, hew these stones with a hammer and a chisel. That they had some type of technology. You know, I was I went to just a little side note. I was in Lebanon,
Mhm.
and I went to the Temple of Baalbek,
Mhm.
and they had these columns, just like the typical Roman or Phoenician columns
Mhm.
that might go 50, 60 feet in the air.
Mhm.
Big round columns, in girth, and they're solid.
Mhm.
And you wonder number one, how did they cut them? How did they transport them? And how did they get them to stand up? And then you might have a row of columns, maybe 8, 10, or a dozen. And there's this monolithic stone, like a capital, not the capital, but monolithic stone that goes across all the columns, and again, it's one piece.
And
And I'm
how
like,
did it get there?
how did it do there? But I heard an interesting story. Um, if we think about the stones, that place in Peru and Machu Picchu, where the stones kind of, come together and they're odd shaped, and they say you can't slip a piece of paper through them.
Mhm.
But this very good friend of mine was telling me that his father had told him that back in the day they had the technology to melt and mold stone. So I kind of remembered that, and I'm like, okay, that would explain a lot, you know. But so back to what we are talking about, civilizations, where we're in the sixth epoch now, you know. And so where we are, we've already been,
Hmm.
you know,
I think
six or
so. And I think that's why some of us are so distressed because we
mhm,
have experienced this before.
right.
I know I've
Right.
experienced this before. I have probably even participated in bringing down cultures, you know,
Hmm.
just as this one is being brought down now, or at least a strong attempt is being made.
Hmm. Right.
That's how you
And it,
learn not to, you do stuff that doesn't work and you go, whoops, that didn't work. Let's try
right.
it better next time.
And in all honesty, it's just like any other education system. If you don't get it right, you repeat it.
Exactly. And
you
people
know,
are constantly talking about hell and punishment and what have you. And I believe that God or Great Spirit or whatever you want to call it
yeah,
doesn't do that. I think
no,
what we experience is the punishment. If any punishment, is going to happen, I think that's it.
yeah,
And I think the teaching, the learning, if we are willing, if we allow, because we do have free will, if we allow the teaching, then we learn and we don't do that the next time.
right,
But I
right,
agree with you. We keep recycling until we get it right.
yeah, yeah. And what is hell or heaven but the perspective?
Mm.
Yeah,
Heaven and hell are in here. They're not,
yeah, yeah.
they're
We
not up
suffer.
there or out there or down here or
Yeah,
anything else.
yeah, yeah. And I see you push me back to my biblical training. And the Christ one says, we look around for heaven and realizing that heaven is within you.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, we're coming up on our time.
Okay.
And of course, I knew this was going to be a winner, talking with you, my friend.
Well, with
Um,
you doing the questioning, I was going to tell you,
uh,
you better get out your dental equipment because it's hard for me. But you're too good at what you do. So there you are.
we just try, this is, you make it easy, you
Mm.
know. Having good subject matter makes it so easy because all I have to do is ask a question and sit back and listen, you know, and get educated. But, in conclusion, um, we've talked about your personal life. We talked about your influences. We talked about your service back to humanity and the community with the counseling. We talked about your service to the arts, and specifically the writing arts, the service to consciousness. Um, is there any particular parting consciousness or a message that you would like to leave for anyone who happens to listen?
Yes. I was talking about this with a friend the other day. Um, and it just came back into my head when you asked that question.
Mhm.
I believe I have experienced, and I believe that we arrive here each time with three things. We have a gift, and we have a glitch, and we have what is called a geis. And for those who don't know, geis is a Celtic word meaning that which impels you, that which drives you, that which is your mission,
Mhm.
if you will. And it's kind of laid upon you. Um, then you're not going to get out from under it. So anyway, the gift could be anything. It could be writing, it could be the gift of speaking, it could be the gift of healing, whatever it is. There will always be something that pops up to say you can't do that, or you can't do it well enough, or whatever it is, you want to do, yeah, somebody else can do it better, so why bother? That's the
Okay.
glitch. And and often people stop at that point and they go,
Right.
well, I can't tell you how many people I have talked to who have said, I would really like to do this, but, and then they launch into the but and it goes on forever. But that thing that is inside the geist, the impetus, that keeps pushing you and it will continue to push you until you accept the responsibility of this gift. And until you accept that you're always going to run into something, there'll always be something to pop up and say, no, no, you can't. And like water, you will find a way either around it or through it or over it if you let that guide you. And so I think that's what's kept me going all this time. And it's been quite a while. I'm still
Okay.
here.
So we
I
have the
think it will
gifts,
keep anybody going.
we have the gift, the glitch, and the geist.
Yes, and I will be writing more about those.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
No.
Okay. Well, here we are, folks. We're coming to the end of our interview. And Valentine, thank you so much for allowing me this honor and pleasure of
Oh,
interviewing you. I know I caught you off balance by saying we got to do this, but we're better off for it,
well,
sharing you with the world. And hopefully some listeners will, go through the video and pick up something that they can carry with them as their gift, their glitch, or their geist.
right, whatever. I hope so.
Yeah.
And back at you because we're doing you next. So just brace yourself. I'm
Well,
not
I'm
as
ready.
good
I'm
an
always
interviewer,
ready.
but I've got a lot of questions about your background too. So we will launch into it.
You don't want to know some of the things I.
Oh, yes, I do.
uh, yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
This has been a
Well,
pleasure, as always.
thank you, and of course, our regards to Lou.
And a
And
big hug for
okay,
Julia and for you.
yeah, she offered her apologies. I just want to mention that.
Oh,
So she offered her apologies for not being able to make it today.
well, I wish she had.
Yeah.
So unless you don't want her to know all the things you've done, when we interview you, let's have Julia as well.
Okay, that's fine. I have no fear. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, my friend.
All right.
We'll
Well,
talk. We'll talk soon.
many
Okay.
blessings and much love.
Okay. Much love. Peace.